Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Skillhouse channel. I'm Peter Leonard, and I'm a career consultant at Skillhouse, a premier IT staffing solutions company in Tokyo. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at how to write a Japanese resume. So let's jump right in. So, of course, not everybody needs a Japanese version of their resume. It depends upon, of course, your language level and the position, the company that you're applying to. So when do you need a Japanese resume? Here are some examples. So in the first instance, you have a certification in Japanese, for example, the JLPT. A good rule of thumb is if you are at the JLPT N3 level or above. So N3, N2, N1. Or you simply have an intermediate level of Japanese or higher, regardless of the certification. Number two, you intend to apply to roles that require Japanese language. And of course, number three, you intend to just simply showcase your Japanese ability to the potential company that you're applying to. So those are some examples of when it may be a good idea to create a Japanese version of your resume. So there are a few things to keep in mind when creating a Japanese resume, which we'll get into more detail in just a moment, but here's a quick overview. So there are some differences to the formatting and the content of a Japanese resume compared to what you may be familiar with when creating your English resume. For example, the content is more important than the look. In general, in Japan, a simple, clean resume without color, fancy graphics, icons, graphs, for example, pie charts, are less preferred over just a simple text document without any graphics or icons on them. Simple is better. In many circumstances, in some companies, it will be the HR person looking at the resume, and they may not necessarily be technically minded or working in the same field that you're applying to. So they'll be looking for keywords that match between your resume and the position that you're applying for. So it's important to make sure that you keyword match between the job description and your resume. Also in Japanese resumes, contact information is included, for example, phone numbers, addresses. Oftentimes this information isn't included in our English resumes, but in Japanese resumes, as a rule of thumb, it's usually included. In your Japanese resume, please clearly state from when and to when you worked in a role. We'll talk more about that in a moment. What department you worked in and what was your job title in that department. What you do or have been doing within that role, and any tools you used in that specific role. For example, programming languages. So one interesting aspect of the Japanese resume is, in fact, there's two versions of a Japanese resume, and ideally, you have both. So here's an example of the first type, which is called a Rirekisho. And you can see the Japanese writing for Rirekisho at the top there. Now, the Rirekisho is unique in that it's a very set format with very little flexibility in terms of the content you put on there, with one exception, which we'll get to. So what you can see here is, as I mentioned earlier, the contact details in the top left there, including your name in Japanese writing, usually katakana. And that's where you would also include your address and your phone number. Now, the Rirekisho is also unique in that it starts with the education section. And in many circumstances, you would have the beginning of your education and the ending of your education. And the same applies for work as well. So what I'm highlighting here in the red box, as you can see, is there's the Nugaku, which is when you begin your education at a certain institution, for example, a university, and also the Sotsugyo, the graduation, which is when you complete your time at that institution. So in many cases, you duplicate the same information, the same school. You just simply write when you started and when you finished. And you can see here, the same applies for your professional experience. The kanji here is for when you enter a company and when you leave a company. And in this box here, the third red box, this simply says that this is up till the present day. So this is like the end of your professional experience up until today. Now, this section here is when you can offer a little bit more personality, a little bit more personal information. This section here is when you can talk about your personal motivations for work and what you intend to achieve in your career. This is what this section is for. So this is an example of a template Rirekisho. You can get templates fairly easily online by simply typing in Rirekisho template, and that would also give you further guidance in how to create your own as well. So this is the second type of the Japanese resume, and it is called the Shokumu Rirekisho. Essentially, the Shokumu Rirekisho is much more flexible. Put simply, it is the Japanese version of your English resume, just translated and with some edits. As a result of that, there are many variations of this template, so you can choose from online, again, via searching the one that you prefer. However, please remember that the first screening is, again, usually done by a non-technical person in HR. So please bear that in mind when you are creating your resume and the technical words and keywords that you use. Now, there are still some things to bear in mind when creating a Japanese resume in order to be most effective when applying to positions. Firstly, keep your sentences short and on point. You don't want to be overly descriptive, overly flowery in your language. Just keep it simple and to the point. Always use the format of year and month. So for example, as you can see here, if you are writing January 1998, you will put 1998, then the kanji for year, 01, and then the kanji for month. If you do wish to include projects, please make sure that they appear under each associated company so that there is no confusion about what you did and when. So for example, if you have a project that you have completed in your current company, make sure that the description is in the section of your current company, not in its own separate section. As much as possible, please tailor the resume for the job that you are applying for. So again, look at the job description, look at exactly and specifically what it's asking, and as much as possible, make your resume overlap with that job description, especially when it comes to keywords. You can show off your achievements and don't be scared of using data to back up your claim, especially when you can give numerical, tangible data. For example, performance improved by 10% as a result of my actions in, so on and so forth. Okay, so some additional points to keep in mind. So the Shokumu Rirekisho, the second format of the Japanese resume, typically doesn't require an education section. However, it is recommended to include it if your experience is 3 years or less. Again, the Shokumu Rirekisho includes either a Shokumu Yoyaku, which means a career summary, or what's called a Jiko PR, a personal self-statement. So what's the difference between the two? Well, the career summary is, as it says, a summary of your professional experience. So it's going to be much more focused on your hard skills, whereas your Jiko PR is going to be much more personality-based and much more about your soft skills. You can have one or the other. It's recommended to have both, and then you can easily edit out one or the other depending upon the position that you apply for. When writing about your company experience, you can either start from the most recent one and then go back in time or vice versa. At Skillhouse, we recommend starting with your most recent or current work first, and then you work through your professional history backwards. So the last work experience in that section is your oldest job. So, in summary, there is plenty of information out there on how to write a Japanese resume. The challenge is more how to better match your resume to specific companies. And that's where we come in. At Skillhouse, your candidate coordinator is ready to offer support and consultation advice on your resume. We can pool our knowledge of the market as a whole and the companies we work with to maximize your chances of your application reaching an interview stage and hopefully an offer stage. So thanks for joining us today. And of course, feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions. We'll be happy to follow up on that. And if you found this video to be helpful, of course, please don't forget to click the like button. And of course, please subscribe to our channel for more tips. And we will see you in the next video.